Ooh, g'day, hi, and welcome. Okay, this is not going to be the most professional of videos, but I'm going to put this on my Hot Rod Deluxe. Okay, and we're going to talk about a boot. I'm going to say it right. We're going to talk about a subject I discovered yesterday. Somebody else. If you think I'm stealing their video title, you're correct. I am. So anyway, let's have a look at this beautiful Charbel. Look at that. That's what it looks like in the morning. Yeah, nice. So this is a Charbel San Dimas. It's my newest guitar. Anyway, a really cool guitar. Um, and I'm loving it. I'm about to record with it as well. In the midst of recording a new song. So anyway, this guy, he's got a guitar channel. He buys guitar gear and reviews it every now and then. And I guess he's one of those bigger channels that guys from Singapore or something like that. But I guess he's got a big enough channel that it's like he people send him gear and he reviews it and stuff like that. And there's a lot of channels like that. I'm not a gear channel. The reason being is I'll make a separate video on that. But the short of it is that buying gear just for the sake of buying gear to review it, in the heyday of YouTube, maybe that was profitable for some people, but for most people, that's not going to be practical or profitable, and that's why I don't do it. But his video was titled something, "Are we paying too much for guitars?" And what he was getting at was just rampant consumerism, I guess. You know, but there was a few points that I'd like to make on that subject because I think it can or it won't change people's lives, but it might help people, make a better decision on guitar buying. So this guitar here, okay, Charbel's made several versions of this. Is a San Dimas HH model, Pro Mod, typical San Dimas they've been making forever and a day. And it's a great guitar. It is really, really good. This is a forever guitar for me, for sure. And when I buy guitars, I buy them. And he said this, and this kind of what inspired me to make the video because it was such a good point to make. Is that when he buys a guitar, he doesn't think about the resale value. He thinks about, how long am I going to own this? And for me, I've always told, new guitar players, just jump, like if you, let's say you bought your Jackson Dinky, JS32, okay, and it was $200, and that's your first guitar, and it served you, and it's 3 years on, and you're ready to upgrade the guitar, and you're looking at the $500 guitar now, and then the $800 guitar, and then et cetera, et cetera, and you're going to work your way up. Well, I say don't even bother with those other guitars. Go for the guitar you want. It will take you a long time to save up for it. It'll take you forever to save it because guitars are ridiculously priced right now. But you don't have to buy everything new, so that's good. And if you can find a guitar used at half the price, you're gonna win there. But the thing is when you buy a really, really good guitar, you tend to hang on to it for a long time. The amp that this is sitting on is 20 years old. Why? Because I really like that amp. It's getting worn out. That's the only reason why I'll replace it. Is not because I don't like it anymore. It's because it's getting worn out. That Mesa Boogie cabinet over there is from. I bought that as a teenager in 1991. Think about that. November 11th, 1991. I bought it on Remembrance Day after the parade. We had to fit that thing in the back trunk of my mom's Dodge Shadow. It barely got in there, and of course it was raining that day. But I got it home. got it home, safe, sound, and dry. It's been an awesome cabinet ever since, right? So I didn't buy this and then this and this. I don't impulse buy my equipment. It's easy to do that, and that's one of the problems people have is you go online and you see something shiny. If you see something like this and it's shiny, that's fine. But this could be a $500 guitar that looks like this too, and maybe that $500 guitar you buy it, it's like, okay, I like it, but the fretwork's not quite there. It's a lower grade of tremolo. It's like, okay, well, I'll live with this, but I would have rather had that. And that's $500 that you could have put towards something like this. Now this guitar was $1,600, brand spanking new when it came out. I got it discontinued for 1,000 something, and it came up to 13 something with tax. Uh, Bang for the buck, phenomenal guitar. You know what I mean? I'm not saying you have to go buy a Charvel, but you don't have to buy the most flashy Charvel. If you're just looking for a really good guitar, you can't go wrong with something built like this. You know, completely seamless on the frets, on no fret sprout whatsoever. Uh, just a really, really, really well made guitar. If you can't play well on this guitar, it's not the guitar, it's you. So the point I'm making is that there's going to be a lot of points to make here, but is that if you buy a guitar with the idea of, okay, I'm going to show this on YouTube and people are going to watch the videos and that'll earn back the guitar and then they can buy more gear and become a guitar gear guy, that's fine and dandy, but it's kind of probably, you're probably going to lose more money than you're ever going to make. And you're going to end up with a whole bunch of gear that you're just not going to use, and it's going to be lying around. You're going to be tripping over it and stuff like that. Like I've owned, this is I think guitar number 57. Okay, I own 10 guitars currently. I think 10 or 11, whatever it is. Uh, okay, and do I need all those guitars? No, but they are different guitars in general. Like my Mark Holcomb six string is not that much different from this, except for it's a fixed bridge, and it has 24 frets. The main thing with that guitar though is that is my professional drop tuning guitar, and that guitar, bang for the buck, was a phenomenal guitar as well. It's a keeper, you know what I mean? I've played it live. I played this live 3 days after I got it, and I mean it was blues jam, so I didn't get to really put pedal to the metal on it. I can't wait to try it in a a rock metal band where I really get to let people hear what these things sound like, in the context of a band. But that's the whole thing. Like I'm thinking in terms of recording. I'm thinking in terms like the main reason why I bought this guitar is I wanted a guitar with a Floyd Rose again, but a good one. I bought a cheap guitar with the Floyd Rose, my Jackson GS32 Flying V. After owning guitars with better Floyd Roses on them, and edge tremolos and stuff like that in the past that were much better. When you downgrade like that, it's just like I'll never buy a cheap guitar. If it's not about the price, it's about the will it do what I want it to do. That's why like it doesn't matter. Like when I read the specs of a guitar, it's just like it eliminates so many guitars off the market. It eliminates most of them, no matter how pretty the guitar is. It's like, oh, it's such a pretty guitar, but I'm not gonna, I'm never gonna buy another guitar with a Floyd Special on it because the Floyd Special just doesn't do what I want it to do. The 1000 does, the 1500 will. If you're an Ibanez guy, the Edge Tremolo is probably the best, dynamic tremolo on the planet, right? If I'm buying a guitar for a tremolo and it doesn't have a locking system, I don't care about locking tuners. You know what I mean? Like it's not going to stay in tune. Uh, I don't necessarily have to have an Evertune bridge. It would be cool to have a guitar with one, but it's not a necessity, right? But if I'm going to go with that kind of complexity, I'm going to go with something with a Floyd Rose that because the tremolo is it's an instrument on itself. But if you're going to stick with a fixed bridge, you don't necessarily have to have something as complicated as a Evertune. But it's a really, if you're playing live all the time and your biggest fear is going out of tune, that is the way to go, right? So you're going to spend a lot of money on that guitar. If it has an Evertune on it, you're definitely going to be spending big money. I don't think there's any entry level Evertunes out there. You know what I mean? Um, not at least not at the moment. And people buy these medium guitars. Like there's one guy I seen his channel. He's got like 30 guitars, and they're all like $200 guitars, and they're all old, and they're all some of them are really cool, but most of them are just like they were $500 new. Just using that as an example, and they're like a intermediate beginner guitar, right? And he's got a whole bunch of them, but he basically bought you know like a lot of like basically 7 grand worth of guitars that nobody needs a $7,000 guitar. That's not what I'm saying. But what I'm saying is that you could have 3 really phenomenal guitars or 4 really phenomenal guitars. I got 10 phenomenal guitars, right? And will I keep them all forever? Maybe not. I might trade them up, for other equipment or something like that at some point. But is it? There's no buyer's remorse or buyer's regret with any of the guitars I have sitting in there. Why, like when you see when you see those guitars, if you follow the channel, you know what guitars are sitting in there, and there's just no, oh, I should have saved my money. I don't impulse, but I watched this guitar for 3 years before I pulled the trigger on it. Okay, so that wasn't an impulse decision, and it was between this Charvel and another the Dinky model version of it, but the which I would have preferred to have the Dinky, but it was a Godo tremolo on it, not the Floyd. And the question was, did I want 24 frets and a nicer heel joint more than I wanted the Floyd Rose? And well, we now know the answer. The Floyd Rose is what I was after, right? I wanted a pro guitar with a pro tremolo. Like I don't play this guitar thinking, oh, gee, I wish I could upgrade. You know what I mean? It's not about the price. It's the guitar does the job. It does a job that my 8 string and my 7 string don't do. The 7 string, the 8 string does a job that this doesn't do. So when I started buying guitars a little bit crazy in 2020, like a lot of guitar players did, um, I was doing it with modern sounds in mind because I already had the vintage sounds. I have the Gibson SGs, right? There's my vintage sounds. Now, do I need to buy a Les Paul? I'd love to have a Les Paul, but like, do I need to buy one? No, I've got 2 Gibson SGs. Do I need 2 Gibson SGs? No, but if I was playing classic rock straight through my Hot Rod Deluxe in a band and I wanted to have that kind of dad rocker 60s vibe sound, um, yeah, having the 2 SGs, I can have one for a backup in case I break a string and whatever. Yeah, that's great. Those guitars are perfect for the straight through the amp uncompressed sound. You can't beat them, right? But when it comes to like heavy distortion and wicked gain and savage modern sounds, you need something like this, you know. And this will give you 1980s, 1990s, speed shredder sounds. No problem. Will give you the classic rock sounds as well, but it'll give you a more modern sound than what the SGs do, and it handles effects a bit better. But it doesn't do the classic thing as well as those do. That's why I got these guitars. But if I want to be playing metalcore, this doesn't quite. It can do it. It can get away with it. Like this guitar is a literal jack of all trades. I mean, you got to push pull on it. Coil split. You can do a lot with this guitar, which makes it a guitar that will stop you from buying other guitars because it suits so many needs. It's just what I've discovered is that I'm a 7 string player. It's like, wow, who knew, right? In 2019, I wanted to change my sound from your classic pentatonic rocker sound, as I call it, which nothing wrong with that, but I wanted to become more neoclassical, right? And it's a journey, but my thought process now is starting to become where I rather than doing I tend to go more neoclassical instinctively than Chuck Berry. You know what I mean? Nothing wrong with that, but it's what I wanted. But I also wanted to get really heavy sounds, down tuned guitars, etc., etc. So the 8 string, the 7 string, they do that. Now, will I ever buy more eight strings and stuff like that? The eight string guitar I have is a professional guitar, but it's like, it was a bottom rung professional guitar. Cost me 1,040 tax and all, it was like 800 bucks, and then shipping and everything, 1,040 Canadian. Do I regret buying it? No. Did I discover things about the eight string that I liked? Yes. Did I discover things I didn't like as much? Yes. And this is where after you live with a guitar for a while, you're like, you figure out whether it's something you enjoy playing or you don't. And a lot of guys will buy an eight string, run out just to say they have it in their arsenal, and then they buy it and then they find out that they can't really understand it. It takes a while to really understand what the eight string is about, and it's not even just about drop tunings. It's just the way you compose a song with an eight string is a little bit different. It's not just about the stuff. It's not just about bashing on one string. Like, how do you utilize this guitar? The whole range of the guitar, and that's a journey in itself. And that's what'll either compel you to keep guitars or get rid of guitars, stuff like that. But if you're buying it with a need in mind and kind of not really caring about the resale value, there's two ways to approach this. Number one, you don't have to buy everything new. I tend to buy things new because I don't mind paying the credit card payment, and I have the means of paying down the credit card. If you can barely feed yourself or pay your rent, don't be buying extravagant guitars. Put it towards the stuff you need first. But there's no point in buying a whole bunch of cheap guitars that, like, you're really, what you're after is the buying rush, the consumer rush. That's what you're after there. You're not getting fulfillment out of the guitar, because when you buy a really good guitar, you don't think about other guitars. Now, I always watch the guitar market. Right now, there's no other guitar on the market, with the exception of a few, that I would actually really like. Most of them I don't want. All the beginner stuff I don't want. The intermediate stuff I don't really want, unless there's something really really cool about it. It's like I'm not getting anything new. Like, this is a very hard guitar to top, even if maybe you like the color, maybe you don't. I think it's just absolutely stunning. Uh, but specs wise, like my Flying V, yeah, the Flying V and this, there's not much there. If I have to choose one, I'll probably choose this. But that guitar and this guitar are both usually in standard tuning. It's just I wanted a really cool Flying V, not because I needed a really cool Flying V. I just wanted one, But I have two Flying Vs. But that said, back in 2015 when I bought my JS32 Flying V, it was a fun guitar, but I bought it as a fun guitar, as a jam night guitar. Something not too expensive, so if something bad happened to it, wouldn't be like I'm not going to be taking this out to play drunkards and stuff like that, and jam like as much as I will like a cheaper guitar, right? So having a cheap guitar is a good idea. You could either have it as a backup guitar, you could have it as a okay, we're gonna go play this place, and it's not the best area, town, whatever. Yeah, okay, fine. But then once you have really great guitars like this or whatever you have, and you really like it, like you want to be able to play it in front of people, right? Um, and then there's just guitars that are so expensive that you just don't bring out. You know what I mean? And it makes you kind of wonder why you buy them. It's like, if I can't take it anywhere because I'm too paranoid with it, like that everybody wrestles with. You know what I mean? And I'm not saying you have to go out and spend more than $500. That's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is you have to buy the tool to the job. And a lot of people focus more on resale value and stuff like that. And there's this guy, he has a guitar shop YouTube channel, and he makes a good point. He goes, "There's so many, like, I mean, this guitar is probably going to outlive me. Like, this thing's probably, maybe the electronics are going to, the wiring is going to get a little, and the pots will get a little crackly, but in a decade or two. But other than that, this guitar is probably going to work for years and years and years and years and years and years." And like most of my guitars, I could have them a decade, 2 decades, and they look like they just came off the shelf, right? I don't wear big belt buckles and stuff like that. I mean, you might see some signs of wear, but for the most part, even my gigging guitars always look like they were new. It's just I'm very cautious with them, right? When I play them live, and stuff happens to live guitars. I understand that, but the point I'm making is that there's such a saturation of guitars on the market. What you pay for new, when you go to resell it, you almost never get even half of what you paid for it. You'll be hanging on to it unless somebody's looking for a very specific model. Even signature models don't matter. Like the Mark Holcomb guitars used, if you're after those, they tend to hold their value fairly well. So you probably get about 2/3 of what you paid for it new. But those things have went up a lot too. Like each model uh, of the SE models, they went up by $400 each for the 7 string and the 6 strings, right? And when you look at it like that, it's like, holy jeez, you know, like, are you going to really be able to get 2 grand back for a Mark Holcomb 7 string? I don't think so. Like new when I bought that one, the Mark the purple one, that was a bang for a buck, an excellent 7 string. Like it's the best 7 string I've played so far in 26 and a half years scaling. And I've tried a few, quite a few. And that's the other thing that what I tell, especially newer players, don't upgrade your guitar too fast. When you're going for like buy your, entry level guitar, get in there, play it, learn it, just focus on the playing angle of it. That's why I like my cheap Ibanez bass. Is it's so unimpressive as a bass that all you do is focus on your actual playing. You know what I mean? It's just a workhorse. And by just focusing on the playing, I'm learning a lot about my playing. I'm learning a lot about what my next bass really should be. Rather than just impulsively buying all these cheap guitars that you're gonna lose money on later on. Where if you buy a guitar and you have it for years and years and years, my SG3, I'll have that 20 years next year. You know what I mean? It's crazy. You know what I mean? I've had my Ibanez AEL10, that cheap acoustic, which I bought for jam nights and stuff. I've had it, but it's a workhorse guitar. I've had it for 20 years. It has issues now because it's 20 years old. Same with this amp, it's 20 years old. But I don't buy stuff with the idea of flipping it, to get something else. I think you should buy something that you want to stick with, right? And I get to once people they get bored of things or whatever, and it's like, okay, I've had this for 5 years, and it's just okay. I just don't play it anymore, whatever. And then you sell it, and then you regret it. And I've had guitars that like my Hammer Diablo. Yeah, the neck was starting to warp on it because I did like 274 gigs with it, and I put it through the ringer. You want to ruin it. You want to ruin your favorite guitar or any guitar. Play live with it, right? That's why if you're going to play live, maybe have a couple of guitars that you cycle. You take this one out for a gig, and then once you start to see the wear and tear, you take the next one out. You know what I mean? That kind of stuff. But the thing is if you're going to buy guitars, what I always tell beginners is buy your entry level guitar and don't upgrade too quick. And go into the music store, try every guitar on the wall. A lot of guitar players, one of the advice that guy gave was, like, who's your favorite guitar player? Start there. That's the, if Yngwie's your favorite guy, go look at Stratocasters. Well, Stratocasters is a wide spectrum of quality for sure, from your cheapest, entry level Squires right up to the custom shop stuff. And the custom shop stuff, I guarantee you, there's no Charvel custom shop guitar that's San Dimas that's going to be better than the regular San Dimas. It's going to be limited edition. You're buying it for like, for example, they have one. I'd love to have it, but it has the Godo tremolo. I think a custom classic in there and a single coil, same paint job, roasted maple neck, so a little bit more work into it. But they want 7 grand for it. Like that guitar, okay, maybe they're doing a run of 50 or whatever. Yeah, beautiful guitar, but it's not better than this. It's the same guitar. It just has a slightly different configuration, and it's a limited edition. But it's not better than this. You know what I mean. So like you don't need that $7,000 guitar. Um, I think you can get bang for the buck, the best guitar money can buy within the $1,200 to $1,600 range, which this guitar fits in, and like professional level. That includes aesthetics. That includes aesthetics. Um, you can get a professional guitar probably between 800 and 1,000, or 800 and 1,200, but it's probably going to be more of like like a black guitar or something like that, a little bit more dressed down. But you can find really phenomenal guitars for not just around that $1,000 mark, the $1,200 mark, if you're not picky. If you're picky on the aesthetics, yeah, you're probably going to spend a little bit more. But like after $1,600, like what really are you getting? Unless you're getting like a gazillion inlays in there that are done by hand or something like that. But if it's a typically normally made guitar, you're not really getting that much more. So just knowing what you're buying, and some people they understand, okay, the frets, what are nickel frets versus stainless. If you got stainless steel frets on your guitar, yeah, they're good for life pretty much. But nickel frets, I've never had a nickel fret fail me, on a good quality guitar. My Gibsons have nickel frets. Yeah, you'll see a little bit of string wear on them, but that's 20 years of wear. You know what I mean? Like it doesn't affect the guitar in any way. Um, so like the guys that are doing like the YouTube thing and trying to make money that way, I get that. If, they get loaner gear and then they send it back. That's one thing. Uh, you got guys that flip guitars, but they're flipping really expensive collectible guitars, like 59 Les Paul, that kind of thing. That's a different thing. Those guys are doing something. But the average person that just, okay, I want to have 20 guitars for the sake of 20 guitars. Well, you got your whole life to kind of figure out what guitars you really want, what you don't. The easiest way is to walk into a music store and just try everything on the wall. Even if it's not the exact model. Like, for example, I was able to buy this through the mail because I played probably about 20 or 30 San Demases in the guitar shops over the years. I know what to expect from a San Dimas, right? They're very consistent. The Charvels are all consistent. So I had no problem pulling the trigger on it. It's just, did I want to pull the trigger? So it took me 3 years. I was amazed it stayed in stock that long. And when it went discontinued, I was just like, I'd be a fool not to buy it because it just fits the bill so well. And knowing what you're getting with the guitar, you can pick any, like for example, once you played one Ibanez Wizard neck, you've played pretty much them all. If you played, the different, okay, go try this Prestige, go try the Iron Label, go try the Geo. See what the difference really is. You know what I mean? And a lot of times you can quail that lust for the guitar that you think is just going to be so much better. You know what I mean? It's like, my cheap Ibanez Geo is no good. I got to get the Prestige. But then you play a Prestige and it's like, yeah, it's nice, but it's like that much better. And I know people will take insult to that, but that's the way guitars are. Guitars and violins are the same thing. You pay this much more, but you get like that much more. You know what I mean? Like a JS32 Jackson is, typically not going to play like anything I can play on this I can play on that. You know what I mean? It's just this has slightly nicer fretwork, slightly nicer edges. It's built really well. Slightly better pickups, right? And I got to make sure my client isn't here. Yeah, I'm gonna have to put this guitar back. My windows are too dirty. I can't see with them. I don't think she's here. Okay, no. But anyway, I'm gonna have to wrap this up. But what I'm getting at is that yes, guitars are overpriced. The market is oversaturated, which is a good thing if you're buying used. Because a lot of times, yeah, like Reverb. Okay, I wouldn't buy anything from Reverb. Like people are just putting prices on there just to see, whatever. But like to see what they actually sell the guitars for is usually way less than what they're asking. Like for example, my Gibson SG3 that's sitting in here, I've seen those in the $4,000 range. I paid 1,560 plus tax for it brand new. But because it's a limited run guitar, there was only 1,000 per year, and they only had them for like 2 or 3 years, and they only had 2 versions. Yeah, it went up. So that guitar, maybe I get $2,500 for it. Maybe I get like I'll probably get everything I paid for it back, but would I get $4,000 for it? Only if somebody really, really wanted it for $4,000. You know what I mean, or 4,500 or whatever. My Hammer Diablo, I've seen that. Those not even in fully original. Like people asking $4,000 for them. Again, a guitar that's no longer in production, right? So I'm not saying you can't make money on it, but I'm saying that's the gamble you're trying to take. You know what I mean? That it'll go out of production and everybody will want it. Think about like Night Swans, like Kramer Night Swans. Everybody wanted one, and I found one used in mint condition, and it's I was able to refurbish the pickups because they still produce those pickups. Seymour Duncan still makes the the full shred or whatever, and I got it right back to original, blah blah blah. I only paid $1,800 for it, and now you can buy it new for even less, right? Like $1,100-$1,200, right? And that's got a sting for all those people that bought. I can't remember when I tried the Kramer Night Swan when they first came out. It's a guitar I've always wanted because I thought it just looked really cool, and they do play well and whatever. But I bought the Hammer Diablo over the Night Swan because the Hammer Diablo, the fit and finish it was nicer, and I think it was like $200 cheaper. I think it was a $1,200. I think it's always been a $1,200 guitar. Is it worth the money? Yeah. I haven't played the newer versions of the Night Swans. I've like anything that's mass produced, so you get a good one, you don't get a good one. That's why I like buying out of a music store rather than online. But sometimes you have no choice. Unless you know that, like, for example, if you're buying PRS... anyway, I got my clients here, so I got to get going. Anyway, there we go.